The meditation hall, or zendo as it is called in Japan, is a building about 35 by 65 feet and will take in 30 or 40 monks. The space allotted to each monk is one tatami, a mat 3 by 6 feet, where he sits, meditates and sleeps. The bedding for each never exceeds one large wadded quilt, about 5 by 6 feet, be it winter or summer. He has no regular pillow except that which is temporarily made out of his own private property. This property is next to nothing. It consists of a robe, a few books, a razor and a set of bowls, all of which are carried in a box. They eat 3 times a day. The first meal early in the morning when it's still dark. It consists of rice and vegetables. They have the second meal at 10 a.m. and the third meal at 4 p.m. All of the meals are made of rice and vegetables and are consumed in complete silence. They spend their days meditating, studying, cleaning the monastery, taking care of the farm attached to it, or going to the neighboring villages to beg for rice. Those are the main activities they spend their whole lives on. Generally, it can be said that they either work or meditate, and it is all that they do their whole lives. The lifestyle of a Zen monk is almost painfully simple. From the perspective of a normal person, let's say in Europe or America, a monk lives like a loser. His life is not moving forward in any way. He spends his whole life doing the same things. He doesn't have any ambition, any goal. If you started living a lifestyle similar to that of a monk, other people in your life would probably laugh at you and look down upon you. The Western culture is all about pursuing some kind of goal or dream which is supposed to make us happy. For a lot of people, that dream is to have a lot of money, drive Lamborghinis and Ferraris, live in huge beautiful mansions, wear designer clothes. For others, it is living a family life, having a wife or a husband and kids. However, as these things are becoming more and more difficult to attain, many people seem to lose the meaning of their lives. As wealth inequality is getting worse year by year, as it is more and more difficult to get a job in an incredibly saturated job market, as college degrees seem to have no value anymore, as AI starts taking people's jobs, as costs of living get more ridiculous by the day, as the dating game is more difficult and demanding than ever before, as it is very difficult to make enough money to even stay alive. It seems like our dreams, goals and aspirations are further away than ever before, and are running away from us so incredibly fast that we could never even dream of catching up to our dreams. People have various reactions to such a state of things. Some get depressed, some say that you should just work even harder and there is no such thing as depression. Some start seeing themselves as losers and think they are doomed, and some simply try to live as much as they can, take a small trip, go out with their friends. Overall, there seem to be as many solutions to the problem as there are people trying to deal with it. Now, what does the lifestyle of a Zen monk have to do with all of that? Well, I believe that understanding the reason behind the simplicity of a monk's lifestyle will help us put our everyday misery in a completely new perspective. As humans, we have desires. Whether it is the desire for power, love, acceptance, entertainment, or many others, we believe that the fulfillment of these desires will eventually give us what we call happiness. It's cliché to say that money cannot buy happiness, but what if I told you that love, friends, family, social acceptance, accomplishment, creative activities, or even achieving one's full potential, none of these things will make you happy? Zen and Buddhist monks in general understand that, and that is why they don't pursue any of the things that we pursue. The Western idea of happiness is a state of constant pleasure, only achieved when certain criteria are met, when certain things like money, family and friends are present in one's life. But according to the Buddhist teachings, the Western idea of happiness completely misses the point. What in fact causes so much misery in the world is the universal impulse of acquisition. As power is desired, the strong always tyrannize over the weak. As wealth is coveted, the rich and poor are always crossing swords of bitter enmity. International wars rage. Social unrest ever increases. Unless this impulse to get and to hold is completely uprooted, cannot society be reorganized upon an entirely different basis from what we have been used to see from the beginning of history? Cannot we ever hope to stop the amassing of wealth and the accumulation of power merely from the desire for individual or national glorification. We have our dreams, our desires, and our whole lives we work towards the satisfaction of these desires. The reason we rarely, if ever, achieve long-term happiness is because the satisfaction of desires does not lead to happiness. If you have a desire, let's say you want a relationship and you get one, then you will be happy for some time. Maybe a month, maybe a year, maybe 3 years. But the human mind is evolutionarily not conditioned to be happy, but to survive, and because of that we get used to things, and they don't excite us as much as they used to. It is then that we start having other desires, but every time the fulfillment of the desire leads only to temporary happiness. That is the reason the Zen monks live such frugal lives. They understand that no matter if their desires are fulfilled or not, in the end, simply living is the true meaning of life, and no outside pleasures are necessary. Let's imagine a person who in the Western sense has everything. They have $100 million, 5 beautiful mansions, 10 very expensive cars, a beautiful family, and a bunch of friends on top of that. That person's life looks beautiful on the surface, but in reality, first, they somehow have to make that amount of money. In the whole world, there are only about 100,000 people with over $100 million, which is only about 0.00001% of society. In order to get to that level, it will take every ounce of that person's time and effort, quite possibly for decades. On top of that, that person would have to find enough time to take care of their family, spend time with their friends, set up all of the things needed to maintain the lifestyle that they live, all of the cars and the mansions, and on top of that, take care of themselves, their own mental and physical health, because wealth is nothing without health. As you can see, now that we got into the details, this American dream kind of lifestyle seems incredibly overwhelming, to the point that finding the time to actually enjoy all the success is not even on the list. Now, let's compare that to the lifestyle of a monk. The monk has no desires, no goals, no path towards his dream job, or dream car, or dream house. He already has all that he needs. His only concerns are working so that he can eat and keep his body in shape, and meditating so that he can keep his mind in shape. That's it. The Western quote-unquote ideal life can be considered that of anxiety, worry, constant mental pressure, and lack of time for oneself. On the contrary, the life of a monk is that of peace and serenity. Less time is devoted to chasing external validation, and more time is devoted to the understanding of oneself and the understanding of the world around the person. The central idea, however, of the monk's life is not to waste, but to make the best possible use of things that are given to us, which is also the spirit of Buddhism everywhere. In truth, the intellect, the imagination, and all the other mental faculties, as well as the physical objects that surround us, our own bodies not being accepted, are given for the unfolding and enhancing of the highest powers possessed by us, and not merely for the gratification of individual whims and desires, which are sure to conflict with and injure the interests and rights to be asserted by others. The takeaway from this video should not necessarily be to live exactly like a monk, but it is to look at the things we desire and ask ourselves, why do I want that? Oftentimes, we may find that we don't truly want fulfillment or happiness. Maybe the reason you want the car, the house, and the family is not because it will make you happy, but because that's what society has conditioned you to desire. I'm not saying that there is something inherently wrong with wanting that life, but what I am saying is that if you are not happy now, chances are you will not be happy even if you fulfill your desires. Zen doesn't teach to force yourself to be happy right this second. Put on a fake smile while you're dying inside. The real lesson we can all learn from the lifestyle of monks is that we should take life for what it is, right now, instead of attaching ourselves to a vision of a future or a vision of the past. In reality, if you think about it, the only thing that exists is the present. The future or the past exist only in our heads. If you spend your whole life imagining your future self, you will never actually live at all. And by live, I do not mean party like there's no tomorrow. Zen Buddhism teaches to try to keep your mind in your present experience of life, as opposed to being attached to a future vision of yourself. Being attached to questions like, am I happy? What do I need to feel better? Why did that person get lucky, but I didn't? Am I ugly and unlovable? These people, are they laughing at me? Being detached from those questions and from life as a whole is the key, and true detachment means enlightenment. To be detached doesn't mean not to care about your life. It means to care while being aware that all of it is in your own head. That perspective is what gives people a certain distance from whatever is happening in their lives. If you lost a loved one, don't block yourself from experiencing the pain. If you have a desire that is not fulfilled, be aware of the desire and of the suffering that comes from it not being satisfied. If something in your life pains you, try to do something about it. But be aware that at the end of the day, there is no correct answer, no correct way to live life.